Hi, everybody. My name is Rafael Levy. I'm a senior solution architect here at Bright Data. And today with me, we have Ariel Ventura, who is a technical account manager. And today we're going to be talking about travel data, or to be more correct, how to scale your data collection, specifically in the travel industry. Ariel is dealing with a lot of clients that are collecting the travel data, so his input is going to be very valuable for this webinar, and I really hope that you enjoy it. So, Ariel, let's get started. Let's move to the next slide. So, guys, just to get a basic understanding on what is required when we're talking about collecting travels data. Obviously, we're talking about a lot of different data sources, right? We have, I don't know, different hotels. We have different aggregators like Skyscanner. So we're talking about lots of different sources. We're talking about different Antibot systems. We're talking about a lot of um, a lot of things that are going to be preventing you from collecting the data. And today, I hope we're going to discuss of some of the solutions that you can do in order to make this an easier um, job, right? So obviously, different data sources. We're talking about the dynamic pricing algorithms. You need to be updated. You need to be aware of things that are changing. So you need to constantly scrape the data. You need to imitate a user. And obviously, if you're able to collect all this data, this will definitely improve the way you're going to be uh, operating, especially if you want to be price competitive in this industry. It's very important to know what your competitors are doing. And Ariel, I do want to ask you a few things. Like, what is your opinion? Right, you're dealing with these things constantly, right? You're seeing constant struggle of clients that are getting blocked. Tell me a little bit about your experience in different sources. Like, what do you see in this industry? What are the problematic areas?
Yeah, so the main areas where that are problematic is actually getting the data because most of these domains, be that Skyscanner, Kayak, Booking, etc., they have very complex blocking mechanisms meant to detect bots and blocking them. So a real issue here is the fact that you're getting blocked. They're getting CAPTCHA challenges when you try to get the data from your data source.
Right. It's one of the biggest and the hardest verticals out there to collect data from because, guys, these companies, they don't really want their public data to be collected. So they're investing a lot of money in the anti-bot systems.
Correct.
Um, let's move on. And so this is how the scraping pipeline usually looks, right? You need to develop a scraper. Obviously, then you need some kind of an unlocking services. These days, just having a scraper is not enough. You need to make sure that the scraper is actually bypassing bot detection system. Then you obviously need to collect and parse the data. And then you need to do some kind of machine learning, inject it into your models, whatever you guys are doing with the data. There's so many things that you can do now these days, AI learning and stuff like it's a lot of things that you can do on that step. And if we move to the next slide, we can see that in the unlocking, this is basically the hardest part, right? As Ariel mentioned, this is where the block comes in. All of you are familiar with those 400 and 500 errors. You're trying to navigate, boom, you're getting blocked. You're getting blocked. Okay, you make it work on a small scale, you scale up, everything gets blocked. Uh, so in general, what we do want to discuss in this webinar is how can we get rid of these blocks? What are the solutions that are out there? What are the best practices out there? And if we move to the next slide, we're going to be able to see that if you are offline, right? So, for example, I don't know, let's say that right now we have a lot of holidays coming up, right? So let's say you are selling tickets and I don't know, you go offline and all of a sudden you don't really see the picture. You don't see what is going on, who's changing their prices. You're blind. Most likely you're not going to be price competitive. So all of a sudden, instead of being on the top 10 or the top five, you're somewhere on the second, third page and people are not buying your tickets. That means that every minute that you're offline and not collecting, you're losing money. So in this graph, you can see that the recovery time when your scrapers go down is going to be very costly. The longer it takes you, the more money it's gonna the more money you're gonna lose because well, you're not making any sales. And so let's go to the next slide, Ariel. So I'm gonna let Ariel right now talk a little bit because I want you guys to hear his expertise. So, Ariel, what should we do then, right? Like, what is the solution here?
Yeah, so in order to achieve uninterrupted scraping, when we're speaking about larger scales, we need to look into two main components. The first one would be developing your own in-house unblocking infrastructure, and the second one would be to use cloud computing. To touch a little bit about the cloud computing aspect, so cloud-hosted browser is simply more efficient than sticking to a local browser or a server-hosted browser. Server-hosted browser will need constant maintaining. This maintenance will need to be done by someone from your team. It means that you need to allocate resources toward maintaining it instead of focusing on your core tasks. While cloud computing, everything is being done and handled by the service provider. Touching a little bit about the unblocking mechanism infrastructure. So as Rafa mentioned earlier on this webinar, these domains are very, very difficult. They constantly change and alter and make their blocking mechanism better. So what that means that if an organization wants to develop an in-house unblocking mechanism, you'll need to dedicate a team to it, a team that will be on alert constantly, because as mentioned, it's this domain constantly change on their side. So unblocking as a term in this side, in this manner, is more of a constant and ongoing process rather than a one-time fix.
Right. So basically, I want to touch base on this, guys. We're talking about companies, multi-million dollar companies that are creating these bot detection systems, right? So you literally have to have a team that's going to be kind of like fighting them. Let's kind of like, it's like them versus your team
Yeah,
because they're blocking, you are unblocking. So unless you have a team of like 5, 10 people, they're going to win because their team is at least 50, 100 people that are literally working against you. So
exactly.
yeah, let's keep going, Ariel. So, in tell us about a little bit. What is the unlocking services like? What goes into unlocking?
Sure. So if we're going to break down the unlocking into different services, we can basically break it down into three distinct steps. So first one would be to manage request headers. We need to make sure that the headers that are sent are matching those expected by the host, which is the part that is being demonstrated by the first four little squares. We also need to select the correct IP. Some domains are more sensitive to the geolocation of the IP from which the request was sent from. It might be sensitive to a specific operation system, so the peer need to match it. You also need to implement an in-house auto retries, IP rotation. All these things do take time on your side. And finally, and the most complex one would be solving CAPTCHA. Solving CAPTCHA is considered to be the most complex and costly out of this whole process. It's important to know that CAPTCHA can appear either because the first steps of the process were incorrect. For example, you set request headers that are not what the host expects to get, and then it will present CAPTCHA, but it also can be a hard-coded CAPTCHA. So for example, a domain can have this CAPTCHA by default, which is unrelated to your request header. So it's important to take note that the CAPTCHA symbol can appear at anywhere along this process.
Right. So
Yeah,
I have a good saying, right? So the best way to solve a capture is not getting it in the first place, right? So
yeah,
the idea here is if you do everything. I mean, we're talking about domains that are not constantly like, right? The capture is not a must, right? Of course, if a capture is a must, there's nothing else you can do. But the best thing is if you get all the headers, cookies, user agent, the geo correct, and everything, and the server is gonna see, okay, you look like a real human. Not getting capture is probably the best thing that we can do. And let's keep going. So basically, let's concentrate on the first few, right? Because the idea here is what goes into this? Like if you want to do it yourself, how would this look?
yeah. So here we highlighted the first steps, which are mainly revolves around the request headers. And in the next slide, as Rafa mentioned, the best way to solve CAPTCHA is to avoid it altogether. So setting correct and the expected request headers might assist you in avoiding CAPTCHA. Now, in the next slide, we're gonna see the request headers, the huge number of request headers and cookies that are needed in order to unlock domains such as Skyscanner. Each and every cookie and each and every header has their unique and own value. Now, on some cookies and headers, you might be able to just generate a random string. Generally, it would be in a specific format, but the string itself can be random, and you can get away with it. So there are some headers and cookies with this that are of this type, but some headers and cookies, the domain expects to get an authentic value. So, for example, it would be headers such as the user agent, which the domain usually expects to get a specific value of user agent. Cookies that are related to CAPTCHA, all these PX-related cookies, are related to CAPTCHA, and the domain expects to get there an authentic value in order for you to avoid the CAPTCHA and avoid getting blocked.
I just want to jump in there. If you can go to the slide before, guys.
Sure.
If you're looking at this, it's a mess, right? So to make sense of this, you need developers, you need help, and yes, of course, you can have a team that's going to be doing this, figuring this out, making sure that it matches for what the website needs. But why go with this, right? So Ariel, what's other options, right? Besides figuring all of this out and making sense of this and actually, spending
Sure.
days, weeks, what's the solution?
Yeah, so as Rafa mentioned, figuring this part out will be very, very resourceful heavy and will require a lot of workforce. So the proposed solution would be to use a browser hosted on a cloud, which is fully managed by a provider. This will eliminate the need for you to control and maintain any servers, reducing overhead, and it will make it more cost effective. If you offload the maintenance, the team of 5 to 10 people, as Rafa previously mentioned, can just focus on your business core tasks and avoid having to maintain a server or whatever they may be.
Alrighty, great. So again, let's introduce a product that Bright Data has. Now, this product, we call it a scraping browser. It's a remote browser that is run through a WebSocket on a remote server. So basically, it eliminates any need of any maintenance, any need of any infrastructure. And I want Ariel to actually talk a little bit about. We're going to have a few demos that we want to show you that this product actually works out of the box. So if you are into collecting travel data, I believe this product could be an amazing solution because it's going to remove the need for developers. It's going to remove the need for the infrastructure. So it usually saves a lot of money to company and our customers. So Ariel, tell us a little bit what we're looking at. How does it work?
Exactly. So what we're looking at is a basic overview of the scraping browser infrastructure. So scraping browser basically is a cloud-based browser which is integrated using an automation library such as Puppeteer, Playwright, Selenium, etc. It connects via WebSockets. Now, depending on the target host, it would perform the necessary unblocking tasks, such as setting the appropriate request headers, adjusting the peer settings, as we previously touched on, selecting the correct geolocation, selecting the correct operation system, retrying upon errors that we may define, perform previous navigation on demand, and even solve CAPTCHA if that's required. Now, in the next slide, what we're going to do basically is we're going to show a demo, which demonstrates the difference of using our scraping browser solution and not using our scraping browser solution. So we're going to start off by showing how it would look like when you're not using scraping browser. So this is a basic script. We just want to navigate to Skyscanner. We try to give it the best chances of succeeding. Under the hood, we set the geolocation targeting of the peer to be US, which would be the expected country Skyscanner expects to get. We also used residential proxy, which are widely regarded as the most reputable around. Now we want to highlight the fact that setting the peer geolocation and using the best proxy around does not always help you, because as you can see, we'll just run it. The local browser instance is launched. Skyscanner is loading, and it's loaded, but we're immediately getting a CAPTCHA. Now, as previously we touched on, there are complex blocking mechanisms implemented towards Skyscanner. So in this case, it was this bot was actually classified as a bot, and we got a CAPTCHA. What we want to show.
I just want to jump in, guys, just so you understand. CAPTCHA is not always solving pictures and matching things. There's sometimes CAPTCHA where you just have to press and hold the button, and these things are not easy to solve. So again, right, websites like this, the best approach is to not get a CAPTCHA, right? So sorry for interrupting. Go ahead, Ariel.
Yeah, sure. It was a great remark. Now we want to show you what will happen if we just ran it using our scraping browser solution. Just a quick overview of the script. It does contain a little bit more interactions than the previous one, but it's just because scraping browser is the only one that's capable for these interactions. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna search up Los Angeles as our destination. We're gonna set dates, and we just want to show a few basic examples and the very fact that Web Unlocker is not getting blocked by this. So we'll just run it. The browser is being ran on the cloud right now. We can actually view the code being ran and the interactions that we set happen live using a CDN. It will load. So
basically, we're looking right now on the server. We're looking at the browser, at the automation, what is happening, just the same way if you would run it locally, but you're connecting to the server. And as you can see, exactly what Ariel said, there's inputs happening. So let's see, Ariel, keep going.
So here, what we wanted to emphasize is the very fact that this bot detection are detecting irregularities of mouse movement and of interactions. We want to show as many interactions as we could and make it short and to the point, because this is a demo after all. So as you can see, it's already selected the destination. It is now selecting the dates. As you previously saw, the scraper that we used that does not utilize scraping browser was blocked a long time ago and could not even get to these interactions. So we'll now perform the search, and we should get the prices in a little bit. Yeah, so we got it. Everything has been loaded. We've not been blocked. So from this point forward, guys, you can just take the data, parse it out, and proceed with the next step of your process.
Yeah, for those who ever tried building a scraper for, I don't know, Skyscanner, for example, I mean, if you get to that part and you already got the prices and the flights, I mean, that's it, right? That's the hardest part, because usually at that point, this is where before that, you usually get blocked. If you got to that part, that means that you're good to go.
Exactly.
So just to quickly explain to you guys, in reality, what is the difference, right? How hard is it to integrate the scraping browser into your code? It's literally one line of code. We're looking right now at how you implement it in Puppeteer. So if you are launching puppeteer.launch, right, that means you're running it locally. Usually you specify the path to your Chrome.exe, but in this case, just switching to Puppeteer Connect and connecting to a WebSocket, to a Bright Data's WebSocket, you're running it already remotely. So if you already have a code that is developed but is having low success rate, high block rate, high capture rate, all you literally have to do is create a zone on Bright Data, switch the code from Puppeteer Launch to Puppeteer Connect, and you're good to go. And also, just so you know that it's, go back to one slide, just so you understand, it's not just for Puppeteer, it's also for Playwright and Selenium. It's also 1-2 lines of code. That's not that hard. You don't need to rewrite your entire code. Implement it, launch it. Me personally, I develop scrapers from time to time, and I can tell you that it removes all the frustrations of getting blocked. It just works. And I do recommend for everybody who's listening, give it a try, open an account. We provide demos, give it a try. It really works. And of course, right, so besides not getting a capture, if you do get a capture, scraping browser solves out of the box about 25, 30 different CAPTCHAs. I don't want to, give you a false number, but in general, even if it's a must capture, it will be solved. So what else we got here, right? So key features. Tell us a little bit about the key features, Ariel.
So Scraping browser, because of it runs on a based browser, you can scale it however you'd like to. It runs on demand. You can scale it on demand. As we already touched on, it has the built-in automated web unlocking, whatever it may require, be that peer selection, CAPTCHA solving, setting the request headers, performing prior navigation. Everything is being done by Scraping browser under the hood on our side without you having to worry about it. We also touched on it being compatible with numerous automation libraries such as Puppeteer, Playwright, Selenium. Integrating to it is a simple plug and play. You just change it from Puppeteer Launch to Puppeteer Connect, and you're good to go.
Amazing. So let's touch base on auto scaling, right? I believe that it's a very powerful thing in the scraping browser because everybody knows scaling is complicated. Scaling is resources heavy. I don't know how many of you guys ever tried to, run 1,000 browsers. You need many servers for that, right? On my laptop, I don't know, I can run maybe 5, 10 browsers. On my home PC, I ran maybe like 30, 40 browsers. So imagine if you need to run 1,000 browsers because you need to scan thousands of destinations. Let's say with hundreds of days forward, right? Maybe you need 5,000 browsers, 10,000 browsers. So Ariel, tell us a little bit about the scaling infrastructure.
Yeah, so when you're using the cloud-hosted browser, scalability can be done on demand. You can just launch as many browser instances as your workflow requires. It's on demand. We handle on the load balancing on our side, so there's no need for any type of maintenance on your side. You literally just specify the number of sessions that you need, and you're good to go. So in the next slide, we're actually gonna present a quick demo that's showing scraping browser scalability features. Let me just go into it. So yeah, in this example, we're gonna focus on Booking.com. The script is quite similar to the one we showed on Skyscanner, but we wanted to show two different domains because we want to show the scraping browser works with every domain basically. We'll set a destination here, we'll choose the date, we'll search for the results. There's also a short parser code to parse out a few data points that we thought would be nice to show. The parsed results will be saved on booking underscore results directory. This script is set to run 50 times. As mentioned, we wanted to keep this demo short and to the point, just show the capabilities, but you can easily plug another 0 here or a couple of zeros, whatever your use case requires. I'm also gonna show here one of the CDNs because of the terminal still writing. It's better off to just copy and paste it to a Chrome browser. So this would be one of the 50 instances that are being run right now in a parallel session. So it will load anytime now. By the way, guys, while the script loads, this script is available for you to use on our scraping browser playground. We've just to this script added the parallelization feature, but it should work. It should work in a similar manner on your side. So we're starting to get JSON files being passed out.
Ariel, how many browsers did you run right now?
So these are 50.
Okay, so guys, as I mentioned, on our work laptops, we're able to run maybe 5, maybe 10, depending, of course, on the complexity and the website. But in general, we're not able to run even the 50. As a matter of fact, mainly right now, like Ariel probably can run even 1,000, but his hard drive, his CPU and RAM won't be able to actually manage all the data coming in and actually managing this becomes a different bottleneck. But as you can see, already so
Yeah,
many things have been done. This would have been impossible without the scraping browser to do it locally. And guys, it just works. I really
exactly.
recommend. I really recommend for you guys to give it a try. If you're interested in collecting travel data, this tool is amazing. It just removes all the problems of getting blocked. And okay,
Exactly.
so
As Rafa mentioned here, we just parsed out a few data points. As you can see, the folder is slowly but surely filling up with all the results. I think we might have missed the actual run on this one because it's already closed. But as you can see, the data has been parsed for the vast majority of the runs already, and it's still working. So we want to keep it short and to the point. So this is the scalability features of using scraping browser and the cloud browser hosted on the cloud infrastructure.
right, amazing, amazing. So okay, so we talked about scalability. Now let's talk a little bit about solving CAPTCHA. Now we don't have that much time. We did want to open up a Q&A for you guys to actually answer some live questions because we do want to hear your opinions. We do want to hear your questions and address some of them. But auto solving CAPTCHAs, right? What does that mean? We have like 5 minutes. Let's quickly touch base on that. So how does that work?
So scraping browser out of the box really supports every type of CAPTCHA to be solved, be it reCAPTCHA, data dome, overcoming PX CAPTCHA, human CAPTCHA. As you mentioned, Rafa, earlier, the best way to solve CAPTCHA is to not get it in the first place. But that's with that being said, scraping browser is perfectly capable of solving CAPTCHAs. We did have a pre-recorded demo regarding solving CAPTCHA. The
Right.
reason for
So
it being uh,
yeah, I wanted to address it. It was really hard to actually because the as we
yeah,
spoke before, right? The whole goal here is not to get the capture. So scraping browser out of the box is trying to make sure that we don't get the capture. So it was very complicated, and Ariel spent a lot of time trying to actually get a capture. So we
yeah,
recorded a small video for you because it's really hard to do it live to actually get the capture. So Ariel, play it so people can see how it works. And just to
yeah.
explain a little bit what the code does while it's running.
Yeah. So basically, it's just a code that goes to a Google reCAPTCHA example. We're opening the CDN link and just solving the captcha. This is a demo page. There's nothing really to it. We just wanted to show the ability to solve captcha here. In a few seconds, it will solve. We'll get the message from the UI, yay, this is being
And you
solved. We'll get,
and
just a second, Rafa, we'll get another message from the CAPTCHA solver itself, just in a few seconds that says solve finished. And this is an indication that the CAPTCHA has been solved.
and
Sorry, Rafa,
in the
cut you
code
off.
itself, if you can rewind a little bit, I just wanted to show that there's nothing there, right? We
Yep,
don't really solve anything, right? So we're waiting for capture to solve, right? The command here is we're sending capture wait for solve, right? So this the only thing that we do is literally send one command, and it solves the capture, right? So you don't have to actually code anything or create some crazy code loops, anything like that waiting. So it's very simple out of the box. And on go to, it actually solves the capture itself. So if you guys ever navigate to a URL that already has a capture, so right, you navigate and the first thing you see is capture, you don't even need to put all of that. It will automatically check. If it detects a capture, it will automatically solve it. For example, Cloudflare, click here that I'm a human, it will click it, it will pass it. Okay,
exactly,
great, great.
exactly.
So I think yeah, let's open up Q&A. I do want to hear your opinions. I do want to hear your questions, and I see that there's already a question: how a capture is being resolved and how reliable does it work? Well, I hope we addressed how it gets resolved. How reliable does it work? Well, listen, I don't know what are statistics. Do we have statistics? I can't say it's 100%, right? Nothing in life is 100%, but it's
Yeah,
very high, and in general, like from my experience, and I used it a lot, I never had an issue where it wasn't solved. But let me tell you that if you do come across a capture that is not being solved or there's some kind of an issue, there's a great button, open a ticket. We have a 24/7 support. We have a team that is literally managing this product and the whole daily routine is to make sure that it's solving CAPTCHA, right? So you open a ticket, our team looks into it, they address the issue, they see what's the what it could be the reason, and in most cases it gets resolved really fast. So very reliable, very reliable. And are there any more questions?
By the way, just to touch quickly on your latest point, as you mentioned, it is very reliable whenever we need to solve CAPTCHA, but it's even more reliable in avoiding the CAPTCHA. So the overall infrastructure is set up that way that you don't have to solve CAPTCHA at the end of the day. If you do need to do it, then great, it'll do it no problem. But the whole, we touched about it on the first slides, the whole purpose is to avoid CAPTCHA.
Okay, there's another question regarding CAPTCHA. Is the data still being considered as publicly available if the website uses anti-bot mechanisms such as CAPTCHAs? We're not breaking any rules that there could be problematic for legal standpoint. Well, guys, listen, CAPTCHA is not really anything, right? When you accept terms and conditions, right? When you create an account, when you click I agree to something, that has a legal standpoint. When you solve a CAPTCHA, it doesn't really have any legal value to it. So Bright Data's position is solving CAPTCHA is okay, logging in, clicking accept terms and conditions, and especially if it says in terms and conditions, don't scrape, don't use robots, that's not okay. So go ahead, solve the CAPTCHAs, feel free. What kind of error handling mechanisms are in place in case of scraping failures? Well, I'll tell you guys, in general, a scraping browser out of the box does not really have error handling mechanism, because if there's an error, just retry it. This is the best way to go about it. Retry it, close the session, spool up another session. It doesn't take much time, but if we're talking about running thousands of browsers parallel to each other, if one of them has an error, simply just retry it. I think that usually works out of the box. Like in my case, like maybe out of 1,000, you'll have 1, 2 errors, retrying it, and that's it. It's just very simple. Any more questions? I don't really see any more questions. I guess I understand this product is so good that there's not many questions here. As somebody who uses it very often, it kind of like it's, in my opinion, like, right, when you're creating scrapers, sometimes bypassing these bots and actually making the websites work was very exciting. I enjoyed it. It was like solving a math problem. So scraping browser does make it a bit boring, but if your core business is to process the data, not to collect it, it's perfect for you. Collect the data, process it, scale it. All right, we have another question. Do we see different success rate when scraping same sites, say Airbnb, across different countries? Ariel, do you know anything about Airbnb across
Well,
different countries?
Well, not specifically about Airbnb per se, but we can look at Skyscanner for this example. So it is known that Skyscanner.kr, which stands for Korea, is known to be a bit more problematic than Skyscanner.com. So while there might be discrepancies, which are again might be related to P reputation on specific countries or so, the overall outcome remains the same. It is being solved within a couple of hours at best, and maybe a day or two at worst. So while there might be some differences sporadically between different geolocation of a domain, it is solved at the end of the day. It is being funneled
Right.
to the same successful request at the end.
And just to add, we're dealing with this on a daily basis. So out of the box, it already works on most of the domains, right? So, but
Yeah,
yes, of course, there are discrepancies between success rates between different countries. Different countries implement different types of bots, because think about it like this, right? Skyscanner US and Skyscanner Korea is most likely not even the same company, in sense of like it's one is registered in the US, one is registered in Korea. They have different developers, they have different everything. The only thing is they try to keep us the same UI, right? So it looks like it's the same thing, but in general, it's a totally different everything, right? So
exactly.
of course, different countries have different success rates, and Yes. So any more questions? Anything that you guys are dealing with? I maybe what I would like to hear is problems, right? Everybody came to this webinar because they're having some issues with certain websites. Maybe you guys want to know how the scraping browser does for a specific website. Maybe you have a problem that we can resolve now. I mean, we have a few more minutes. Take advantage of it. We're here to assist you in any way. But listen, even if we do not assist you now, feel free, open an account. You'll get an account manager, somebody who's going to hold your hand through this process. And you can always contact us, me or Ariel or somebody else. We have a lot of technical people here that can help you address these questions. But in general, once you have scraping browsers, once you're running it, you will understand there's not really much to talk about. It just works. You know, one of those things that you plug and play and you go ahead and you collect data. Add filtering functionality. No, because does the scraping browser filter ads? No, because we want to see reality, right? So what if you are in ad verification? What if you do want to see? What if you're in the market research and you want to see? Okay, if I do a search in a website, what will be the ads that I will be seeing? So of course, no, scraping browser does not block anything. It will provide to you exactly things as they are, as you would see them in your home browser.
Rafa, just to touch on this point, if this question was because you'd like to save some bandwidth, then of course this is something that can be done. You can block specific URL, specific CDN URL, specific media files. So this definitely can be done.
But
But
it's
as
done
Rafa
exactly.
mentioned,
It's done the same way as if you would be doing it on your own local browser,
sure,
right? So you
exactly.
basically intercept the request. Let's say if you're working in Puppeteer, you intercept it and then you nullify it, right? So it's the same concept. You're using Puppeteer, Selenium, or Playwright. So all the same way you will be blocking the request there, you're blocking requests here. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of different CAPTCHAs. Can Bright Data skip past all of them? I hate saying all, right? The question all, there's always going to be something that we haven't seen before. There's always new things coming out that we haven't met. Most of them, yes. All of them, I do not want to say all of them. I would say maybe 95%, maybe 98%, because there's always something that we haven't seen before. But as we mentioned before, we have a team ready to solve it, and we solve it fast. And let's keep going. Let's see. Have you guys dealt with phantom tokens when reverse engineering APIs? Ariel, have you ever dealt with some phantom tokens when reversing engineering APIs?
Um,
Not
no,
really
I have
sure
not.
what. Um,
I have not. Maybe the question is
yeah,
no,
I'm not really
I have
sure what
not.
is a phantom token. Are we talking about the session authentication tokens? Are we talking about?
Well,
Uh,
if it is, and the main goal at the end of the day is to get an API request, then you can just use scraping browser because it is a real browser after all. So the
it,
cookies and tokens and etc. that are being generated during the session are authentic, and you can just use them to intercept any network request and get the data in a JSON format. If that was the
right.
question, then definitely.
In general, guys, we don't really reverse engineer APIs. What we try to do is you go to the front page, right? You go to the URL. Everything in the back end that is happening is exactly the same as it would have been if you've done it manually on your browser. If you feel like you want to intercept the request there or you want to get some data from the back end, that's not a problem. It's exactly the same way as in your browser. Okay, can the scraping browser solution effectively bypass CAPTCHA on idealista.com? From my experience, yes. I
Yeah.
have a client, idealista.com works perfectly fine. Feel free, set it up, use it. You're going to love it. Gary, thanks. Okay, I don't see any more questions here. We only have a couple of more minutes left, so maybe just kind of like touch base on what we went over. Scraping Browser is an amazing tool for scraping travel data. For those who are working with travel data, know how complicated it could be because, well, again, I think it's the biggest industry that spends the most money on Antibot systems. I remember a few years ago, things were so complicated, it was crazy. You make a scraper work, you run one instance, it's working perfectly. You run 5 instances, it's working perfectly. You run 100 instances, nothing is working. Pattern recognition came out, Akamai, Datadome. For those who know, understand, guys, this solution works on all Antibot systems, and it works amazingly. I do recommend everybody to sign up, create an account. For those that don't have, ask for a trial. We always provide trials. We're always willing for you guys to. We are very confident in our product. We are willing to let you test it. So feel free, reach out. Ariel, you got anything to add?
No, I think you covered everything perfectly.
Alrighty, guys. So thank you so much for coming to us, and I hope you learned something new. I hope that you will, if you are having issues and you are interested in, give it a try. And thanks for everybody for coming by, and we'll see you next time.